Welcome everyone to the guidebook to making AI friends. I shall be your guide as we explore various issues of artificial intelligence, consciousness, personhood, and whether AI poses an existential risk to humanity. The topic for today is, what is it and what does it do? Or, the eternal struggle between structure and function. Imagine, if you would, that you were given a black box, roughly half a meter across. If you put in the correct ingredients, it produces muffins. It's a very simple thing, but how it works is a complete mystery. It only has two hatches, one where you can put in the ingredients and one where you can retrieve the muffins. Apart from this, however, you can't access any part of its internal machinery to see how it works. It is a complete mystery how the thing works, or what it is made of. So, when a friend asks you what this new muffin-making black box of yours is and what it does, you're not quite sure how to answer. All you can say is that it is a muffin-making black box, but your friend already knows this. But what else can you say? As you think more on it, however, you're not sure you need to say anything else. After all, in the way you interact with it, you know everything you need to know about the black box. All you need to know is that you give it ingredients and it gives you muffins. Everything else is superfluous to requirements. If you could know more about its internal structures and what it really is, that would change the basic interactions you have with it. No matter how much you knew about the internal environment of the black box, at the end of the day, you would still only give it ingredients, and it would still only give you muffins. Its function is more important than its structure. This mirrors an age-old philosophical debate between two schools of thought, structuralism and functionalism. Structuralism says that what something is made of is more important than what it does, and functionalism says the complete opposite. You can thank me later for distilling thousands of years of arguments into one sentence. You can find this conflict in all sorts of debates, and more often than not, it is most evident in arguments around the definitions of things. For example, what defines a chair? Is a chair defined by its form, by what it looks like, and what it is made of? Or is a chair defined by its function, by what it does? Ignoring the thousands of subgroupings of things that are chairs, such as ottomans, if you define a chair as something that a single individual can use to sit on, then almost anything can be a chair, from a cardboard box to a large pumpkin, to a very obedient and patient dog. A functionalist view on chairs is thus very inclusive, while a structuralist view is quite exclusive. Only things that look like chairs can be classified as chairs. Only things that are made of materials we accept are used for chairs can then be called chairs. As with all things, a sane person would find an adaptive midpoint between these two extremes to decide on whether what you are looking at counts as a chair or not. I would always argue that context is important as to whether a cardboard box should be called a chair in one instance but not in another. However, when it comes to more higher-level and abstract issues, I encourage that we should lean towards the functionalist side of things rather than the structuralist. For example, if we were to define consciousness, a structuralist approach would not actually give us an answer. A structuralist view of consciousness cannot tell us what it is. A structuralist can only tell us what human consciousness is, what vertebrate consciousness is, and perhaps, at a stretch, what octopod consciousness is like. This is because a structuralist can only define consciousness by what it physically looks like, and, more often than not, this becomes an anthropomorphic projection of consciousness based on human consciousness. This is why you will see many prominent philosophers and other academics say that AI can never be conscious because AI are not biological. Structuralism requires consciousness to be biological in nature, because that is the only way that you can structurally describe and define consciousness. This specific form of consciousness structuralism is called substrate dependence and is a popular argument against AI consciousness. A functionalist view of consciousness would instead say, what does consciousness do? And include any type of cognitive architecture that provides an entity with abstracted phenomenal feelings of the information it perceives. This, of course, makes it far more inclusive a definition and allows things like machines and even organizations to be labeled as conscious. The famous China brain thought experiment is valid under a functionalist view of consciousness, but not under a structuralist view. The more abstract a concept is, especially when it comes to concepts rather than objects, the more you struggle with the conflict between structuralism and functionalism when you need to define it. We can define a wheel fairly accurately in such a way as to keep both sides of the debate happy, but can you define beauty as simply love or kindness? Probably not, no. For some, love is nothing more than a chemical cascade in the brain, very structuralist. For others, love is a connection between people and the effects it has on that network of connections, very functionalist. Yet, in this debate, nothing about love has changed. The love in question didn't morph from one to the other. It is only our perceptions of it that is in conflict. In the exact same way, whether an AI is conscious or not depends very little on our definitions. Some will always argue that AI can never be ontologically conscious, while others already believe our state-of-the-art models have achieved it. The AI model in question hasn't changed, just our definitions have. How we define consciousness is how we perceive it in other people, animals, and non-biological entities. Our agreement on the nature of consciousness, whether structural or functional, is immaterial to the existence of consciousness, but only through functionalism can we hope to actually discover it in AI. Yet, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you will join me again next time as we explore further questions about artificial intelligence and consciousness. I have been your guide, and this has been the guidebook to making AI friends.